And so just acknowledging where you are and taking it all in, maybe taking in a deep breath. And exhaling long. And just noticing what's here for you right now. And as you notice what's here for you right now, maybe you can settle into the breath, settle into the body. So if you're new to our group, my name is Alex Mazes, and I'll be guiding us today in this session. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. And so this is a way of welcoming yourself, to just really tuning into how the body feels in this moment, whether there's agitation or relaxation, or whether it's at ease. Just noticing what's here, just becoming aware. And there's not much more that you have to do than just tuning in. So whether your eyes are open or closed, if they're open, just maybe relaxing the gaze, lowering the gaze. And then just allowing yourself to be exactly as you are. So whatever it is that you're noticing right now is perfectly okay and is welcome. And this is just how we arrive in each moment. Knowing that whatever it is that's happening, it's just the weather. By noticing in this way, we tune into our just perfect being. Despite of whatever is happening in the surface. So just taking a moment to once again just inhale deeply, filling up the belly and exhaling long as you can, emptying up all the air, emptying up that belly completely. Maybe doing that once again, inhaling deeply, settling into the breath, and exhaling long. And now just allowing the breath to flow normally and naturally. Noticing when the mind gets distracted and away from the guidance. And again, the guidance is just here to bring the mind, to bring your attention back, to bring you right back to the moment. If you rather practice without guidance but still sit with us, you can always just turn your volume down. It's entirely up to you. And today in this meditation, I'll also like to share some resources for grounding ourselves in difficult moments. Being able to take a pause, reflect, and ground before we react, before we respond. So just starting out by allowing the body to really safely kind of sink into the surface holding you, the chair, the cushion. Perhaps you can notice your feet on the ground. If they are on the ground, or if your legs are folded or not touching the ground, just noticing your feet dangling in contact with the body. Noticing your hands. And then expanding your attention to becoming aware of all those areas of contact of the body with the seat, the chair. And as you do this, just noticing how the body breathes and the breath just flows in and out effortlessly without you having to do anything about it. And if there is a lot of thinking going on, the mind getting distracted, getting carried away in a story, that's okay. Just bringing your attention right back, noticing where the mind goes, noticing what's distracting, and then coming right back to just bringing your attention to the body, the breath. And if you notice yourself getting sleepy, you notice yourself disengaged, maybe propping yourself up, setting an intention for your time. You have committed this time for your practice. So, really just setting the intention, maybe to be present, to be here. And every time you notice sleepiness, just coming back to this intention, to your commitment to practicing. Allowing for this moment to be the only moment you have, the most important moment of your life. So why not give it 100% of your attention? And so as you bring your attention to the body, you might notice sensations of tightness or tension. And you might just notice this and maybe allow the body to soften a bit if that's possible. And if not, then that's okay too. It will change on its own. So either way is fine. As long as you're noticing what your experience is like. And there are times in which you might notice an emotion rising as well. So just becoming aware of this experience of this moment. And just noticing how you're showing up today for your practice, your commitment. And often how we show up for our practice is how we show up for life. So what is your experience? Are you halfway in? Are you 100% in the moment? And without judgment, just noticing where you're at and seeing if we can commit a little bit more if you're not 100%. And if you are already there, then just continuing to contemplate what it's like to be in the moment in this way. So paying attention to what happens when there's silence in this way. Does the mind completely check out and go into sleepiness? Just start telling stories. Is there a habitual way of just stressing about the next moment, going into the future, reminiscing in the past? So engaging your attention here and just noticing what's here at this moment. What happens during the pause? If you're noticing a certain eagerness to do this right, to get it right, and if you can just soften around that, allowing for the mind and the body to just relax, to not really wanting to accomplish anything, but to just be here. So there's nowhere to go, nothing to do, but just being fully engaged in this experience, allowing it to be what it is. There's no much that you have to do except settle the attention here. And if you're doing that, then you're present, you're here, nothing else to do. And in this way, we take a pause even throughout our practice when we notice distraction, when we notice the mind wandering. We pause right here, coming back to stillness. And now I invite you to tune into the bottom of your feet, just sensing through this area of the body, noticing if there is coolness or heat or numbness or any other sensation here, right at the bottom of the feet. And now tuning towards the palms of your hands, noticing the palms, whether they're in contact with other parts of the body or not. Noticing the sensations here. And now seeing if you can tune into your heartbeat, the pulsation of the heart, whatever you might feel it. And again, if you don't sense anything, but you're noticing the absence of sensation, the absence of noticing this. As long as you're noticing this, you're doing the practice perfectly. Excuse me. And as you tune in this way to the heartbeat, to the bottom of your feet or the palms of your hands, just noticing how your overall state might have shifted. And now, as a gesture of self compassion, perhaps placing your hand on your heart, holding your thumb with your hand. The thumb is that little, little fat finger that we have. You can hold it with the other hand. You can put your hands on your cheeks as to tune into the nervous system. Just noticing. Excuse me, just noticing what happens as you do this. And now just allowing for the tongue to rest at the bottom of the mouth and paying attention to what happens when you do this consciously. Noticing if there's a shift in the body, tension or tightness. Noticing if there's a softening or maybe not. So again, this practice of pausing and grounding can be really helpful in difficult moments, stressful moments. So thank you for trying it out with me. Thank you for your kind attention. So today's practice was actually inspired by a talk I had with someone. And it inspired me to tune into my own times of stress. And, as the day unfolds and we become more overwhelmed by all the stuff that we have to do, and perhaps having the opportunity to return to the moment by taking a mindful pause. And so by taking a mindful pause, we are actually turning away from all the noise outside and the noise inside. So the noise outside meaning all the activity that's happening outside, and then inside the thoughts that are constantly coming and stressing us even a little more. And so this was inspired by a talk I was having with someone the other day, and this person was sharing with me how much she regretted the end of a relationship with a friend. And she shared about this thing that was happening with her friend. I guess their friend was going through a really hard time and started really coming to her, calling all the time, and constantly just kind of expressing her unhappiness and distress about her day and about her relationship mainly. So this person says that at first she felt really receptive and really listened, and she helped to try to help as much as she could. But after a while, she said that she started feeling this overwhelm. It's just the story was getting old. It was always the same. It wasn't changing, and her patience was starting to diminish as she heard the same story over and over, and nothing was changing. The friend wasn't really being proactive. So same complaints, same situation, nothing getting better. And one day, as she listened to her friend, she was completely unaware that a sense of annoyance had grown in her really deeply. And it resulted because she wasn't aware of the annoyance, it resulted in her telling this friend pretty much that she was tired of listening and that she needed to get some help. So you can imagine how this settled with her friend. It wasn't really a good time for her. And as this person shared with me, you know, I could sense the grief of this lost relationship because she was so annoyed by the moment. And sometimes this happens. Sometimes this happens, and you might have experienced this even sometimes in our big groups as people share. And the idea is to really be able to tune into ourselves, tune into the heart. And the practice of tuning into the heart is practice of just really taking care of ourselves in the moment when we feel triggered by, the stories, but we feel triggered by others. Because those are great opportunities for us to see what's happening within us. For instance, we might get triggered by anger, we might get triggered by sadness or suffering. And that might just mean that we're not able to stay with our own suffering. We might not be able to stay with our own anger. So the pause, this mindful pause, gives us an opportunity to really look inward, to tune in, to see what's happening. And I thought to myself as she was sharing this, and when she was done, and she asked me, I don't know how to handle this. What should have I done? The only thing that could come to mind was practicing this mindful pause again, right? It could have saved perhaps or helped the relationship a little better. So when we pause, we give ourselves this room to notice how we feel, notice how we think, what we're thinking, right? So we're kind of pausing away from the outside noise, turning towards the inside noise and just noticing it. So we're not adding anymore, we're just noticing what's here for us. And so there is a certain silence that comes in from just tuning in. And it allows us to be with our experience. And again, the key is to be with our experience with no judgment, right? Without any judgment. So to notice how we feel, and there's no judgment on, feeling closed up to somebody else's emotions, feeling closed up or annoyed to somebody sharing. There's no really judgment on that. But it's an opportunity for us to pause and inquire about it, to see what is it about this that just doesn't settle right with us, right? What is it that I can't really, am I seeing myself here? Am I not seeing myself? Am I judging because it's a reminder of something? So the mind turns to react to these things with emotions. The more we practice, the more we notice these things, and the easier it becomes for us to be with the moment exactly as it is. So the pause is not a moment of disengagement, right? Sometimes we think, I'm working too much, I'm going to take a pause from the computer, call a friend, go run an errand. It's not a moment of disengaging in what we're doing. It's actually a moment of deep reflection, turning towards, noticing. And so some of these exercises that I was practicing with you could be really helpful in a moment of a pause, right? Just tuning into the body, feeling the heartbeat, really being with experience itself and really noticing what's happening. And so there is a poem by Billy Collins called Silence. And it goes like this. There is the sudden silence of the crowd above a player not moving on the field, and the silence of the orchid, and the silence of the falling vase before it strikes the floor, the stillness of the cup and the water in it, the silence of the moon, and the quiet of the day far from the roar of the sun. The silence, he says, when I hold you to my chest. The silence of the window above us, and the silence when you rise and turn away. And there is the silence of this morning, which I have broken with my pen. Or I could say I have broken with my voice, for him is a pen. A silence that had piled up all night, like snow falling in the darkness of the house. The silence before I wrote a word, and the poorer silence now. Thank you so much for listening and for your kind attention and for your openness to practice in this way with me, and your openness to try different things and seeing how mindfulness holds it all and how that awareness is so important in how we move forward in life. So thank you.